part, those musicians, they were traditional musicians, they were all retired, and they were not that popular anymore, you know. So after that, traditional Cuban music inside Cuba became so popular again, and I think that it can come in both directions, you know. And we that face isolation because of the American embargo, for more than 45 years we were totally closed to the world, and suddenly the country was open to tourism, and 2.2 million comes every year, and so change can happen in two different directions, and I think that pieces of media like this one, like that movie, can start breaking the curtain and all the propaganda and all of the misinformation. It is not a perfect society, no? It's just putting an example that these glories of the Cuban music, the young people didn't know them. They didn't care. Say, it was necessary to win a Grammy to get to know our own musicians. Yes, it was. We have Bam Bam, we have all the salsa bands, and it's like the avant-garde. People in Cuba dance very fast, and they have a very different way, but so it was like this point of connection, and it's a very good example because music and dancing for us is like the blood, no? It's in our blood, and it happens also in a movement of agriculture, in permaculture gardens, and people come and sing the songs, and we have the parties there. It is part of the culture, but it helps a lot people to relax and to integrate what they do in their idiosyncrasia, like it's what we do, and gardening is not an extra burden. It's something that can be perfectly integrated to our life and make it better, not make it worse.
Hi, it's just really great listening to you. I was just sitting here thinking that I'm 63, and I can remember when I was growing up, we all had gardens in New Zealand. And we used to swap vegetables over the fence. Mrs. Swing would give you this, and we had so much of this going on. So for us, it's actually like going back to something, reclaiming something that we all did. People of my parents' generation all knew how to garden. Everyone had fruit trees. Everyone had lemon trees. Everyone gardened and swapped produce. And mostly had chooks, you know, hens. Yeah. So, and there was a great community feeling about the swapping of the, food, and then that stopped, and that's what we need to do. We need to cut up our back lawns and plant spuds and just start at that level. And I'm just sitting here thinking, I've got a lovely garden and I grow organic vegetables, but I'm going home to pull out some of my flower beds and plant vegetables.
This is very important, no? Like sometimes we don't know that we are reinventing the wheel, and this is a very important thing. In every society, the roots are there. The real traditions are there. The tradition is not this Western culture. The tradition is not the mall. The tradition is not the McDonald's. The real tradition is there, and sometimes this is necessary to look back. Maybe it's not that many years, but this is important just to look for examples and to learn from other generations instead of spending a lot of time like learning or things that are already here. And I think in our case, in the case of like herb medicine, there were the African descendants people. In the case of the vegetable gardens, there were the Cantonese people. And in the case for tobacco and some other crops, there were the descendants of people from Canary Island. And in every society, you can locate that. You can locate those examples. You can look for it. You can bring it back. And just to put you an example that it's not Cuba or not New Zealand, to look for things. Montreal, a city in Canada, big city in Quebec, it was very famous many, many years ago. The melon de Montreal, the Montreal melon. At some point, nobody knew. Everybody forgot how this melon looked like. In 40 years. It's like collective amnesia. What's happening? And so a lot of people started to looking back, and they finally found it, but where? In the States. Not in Montreal. No. But the idea is, and I think this is very important, and in Latin American context, we call it environmental history. The creation of New Zealand as a nationality, which percent of the native ecosystems are gone? I'm not blaming this part of the society or the other one. We need to understand that we're here, but we're also the product of the destruction of most of the nature. So we need to learn of our mistakes, but we need to learn of our successes as well. And this is a very, very important reflection that we have to take into account.
My question is not a social one, more of a technical one, around the numbers and the analysis of the numbers and the size. And you mentioned that for the city of 2 million people, within the city and within a 5-kilometre radius, you could grow 50% of the food.
Vegetable needs.
Vegetable needs. So that means 50% must come from somewhere else. And then we come into that money time equation of how far is it feasible to travel to bring in that extra food. So is there an analysis around what is that optimum city size and how population dense should that city be to be able to grow 100% of your vegetable needs within your city or within a 40-minute walk of your city?
This is, there are many issues together in your question and your reflection. No? Sometimes you have to explain people that we don't want to go back to the feudal times, the Middle Ages. No? It's not like everything has to come. We're not talking about like to have like this closed environment when everything can be produced there. The thing is, like, there are always a lot of like trading myths. They say if you produce food in the city, you will destroy the local farmers. And if the local farmers, they will be destroyed by the companies, the big agro-business companies. It's all bullshit. The sense is like big companies, they want all the profit. So they don't want you even look for the other side. They want you to go to the mall. I say back, how's the... They want you to go there, you know. And you think, not you personally, but people think, okay, it's cheap. It's not cheap, you're paying for that. You pay for that before with your taxes. It's so heavily subsidized. And so in the sense of that, in Cuba, we realize that there is a space for urban producers, for farmers, local farmers around it, and even it makes sense for people that they grow special fruits, sour sauce, and I don't know, maybe the names here. They can bring it to Havana from 1,000 kilometers away, and it's business for them to make it. So the truth is that there is a space for everybody. 3 years ago, the government imported $600 million in food, terrible, awful American food, you know, terrible chicken and things like that. We have to try to break the embargo. Now. It's something that is drowning us. And we need to try to show them that there is another way of relation and things like that. But every pound of food produced in Cuba was sold in the country, even with that massive import of food. Just to give you an example that there is a space, but they don't want to share the middleman. How many middlemen between the consumer and the producer and the producers? And still people think it's cheap, you know, but it's terrible. And all of these ideas in Cuba, we still have ration card. Maybe you don't know that, but people will receive basic amount of food. And it will cost probably